Okay, so now we're going to talk about Bethlehem.
Okay.
Bethlehem. There are actually two Bethlehems mentioned in the Bible. One is the famous one we all know, where Christ was born, and the other one was a little one that was about 85 miles north, which is no longer there. The Bethlehem, the famous one, is it's about 5 miles south of Jerusalem, and it's about 2,500 feet elevation, and it's about 100 feet higher than Jerusalem, just for a little information for you. But this picture here is a drawing that someone did in the year 1800 of Bethlehem.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's how it looked in the year 1800, so that's quite a bit larger than it would have been in the day, of course. But the next picture shows us the current day Bethlehem. So you can see it's a thriving city. They get 1 million visitors a year or more because of the birthplace of Christ.
Wow, that's a lot.
But, yeah, sure is. So there's a prophecy. This is in Micah 2.
Okay.
And the prophecy says, "But you, Bethlehem Ephrathah, though you are little among the thousands of Judah, yet out of you shall come forth to me the one to be ruler in Israel, whose goings forth are from old, from everlasting." This is a prophecy that the Messiah, the Christ, will be born in Bethlehem. Now, the next scene in this story we're telling is why it is that Joseph and Mary were in Bethlehem anyway, because they lived in Nazareth, which is 70, 80 miles north. Yeah. So, this is in Luke 2, starting in verse 1. "And it came to pass in those days that a decree went out from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be registered." Now, Caesar wanted to take a census of everybody, so he knew how many people were in the kingdom. "This census first took place while Quirinius was governing Syria. So all went to be registered, everyone to his own city. Joseph also went up from Galilee, out of the city of Nazareth, into Judea, to the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David, to be registered with Mary, his betrothed wife, who was with child." So they both were of the lineage of the house of David. And the rule was that you had to go to the city of your lineage to be registered. And so they both went to Bethlehem.
Cool.
So that's what they did. That's why they were there in the first place. So it was. While they were there, the days were completed for her to be delivered. And she brought forth her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling clothes, and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. We all know the story, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've heard it thousands of times. It's on all the Christmas cards.
Yeah.
It's in all the Christmas stories. You see it everywhere. Now, the distance they had to travel, like I said, was about 70 to 80 miles. This would have been a 4 to 7 day trip, assuming they didn't stop off at the hot spring somewhere or something along the way. So something like 4 to 7 day trip. So now we're going to go. Well, actually, I wanted to mention something about the swaddling clothes and the manger. We all have seen this scene. The swaddling clothes, he's in a little baby's blanket sort of looking thing.
Yeah.
They actually had some 6-8 inch strips that they used to put around babies. They were called swaddling, and they wrapped up the baby real tight. And then, of course, the manger, and everybody thinks of the little crib, or maybe he was in a little water trough or something that they put some straw in. You know, that's how you get.
That's kind of the idea you get in the manger.
That's what you get in your manger stuff.
Right.
Now we're going to see that isn't exactly the way it went down.
Okay.
So this is really cool, and a lot of people don't know this. So this is going to hopefully everybody will learn something here.
Right on.
So now I'm going to read this passage about the shepherds, and then I'm just going to read it through. I'll make a few little notions here, and then I'm going to give a whole bunch of background information.
Okay.
Just looking on the screen there. Lajuki.
Oh, I got this. Sorry.
Yeah, Lajuki 2.8.
That's funny.
Okay,
Let's
that's
get
funny.
rid of that one.
I'm just joking
is,
there. It's
actually
all fun.
Luke.
Yeah, okay.
Hey, man.
Okay, sorry about that. It's Luke 2. But after I read this passage, I'm going to give a whole bunch of background information on a whole bunch of stuff. Then we're going to read the passage again. And what's going to happen is it's going to jump out of the book and grab you. It's really cool. It's really going to be awesome. So
this is from Luke.
From Luke. Now, I have to say a couple of things. First, you have to understand that Jesus Christ, the Messiah, was like a lamb. Remember when John the Baptist was out and the Christ came up over the hill and he said, "Behold, the Lamb of God," right? A lamb. You have to remember, keep in mind, Christ was a lamb when he came. He came as a lamb the first time. Now, we're going to talk about these shepherds. Now, in ancient Israel, shepherds had a bad reputation. It was a lowly occupation full of low characters. You can think of a few occupations around today where lying and cheating are normal business practices. There are a number of them around, right? Well, in those days, shepherding was that. It was low character guys. But the shepherds that we're talking about in this passage are not those guys. These shepherds are the consecrated shepherds. These are the guys whose job it was to gather and raise up the lambs that were to be used in the temple sacrifice in Jerusalem. And also the Jews took lambs into their homes for Passover and so on. And so they had to be perfect lambs. But these guys, that was their job. So these are the consecrated shepherds. So this is not the bad reputation guys. So you got that in mind. Now let's go on.
Okay.
So here's the passage. Now there were shepherds living out in the fields, keeping watch over their flock by night. That's our first clue, because they're watching the flocks by night. Now shepherds only watch the flocks by night in the springtime when you had the births of the lambs. So you know already that you're looking at a birthing time in Israel in late February, March, or early April. That's the time when the births of the new lambs come.
Right.
So they were out there sometime around that time. It wasn't December. But anyway.
No.
So they're watching their flocks by night, and behold, an angel of the Lord stood before them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them. And they were greatly afraid, right? Of course. Here we go again with the afraid. Of course they were. Then the angel said to them, do not be afraid. For behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which will be to all people. For there is born to you this day in the city of David a Savior, who is the Christ the Lord. Okay? The angels just said, the Messiah is here. The shepherds all understand that. So this is like big, big news, right? And this will be the sign to you. And this is a big thing for us. This will be the, we always just read over this. Mm-hmm. But he says, this will be the sign to you. He's going to tell them exactly what they need to know. In fact, he's going to tell them where he is and exactly how to find him with just two quick little words. Okay. He says, this is the sign to you. You will find a babe wrapped in swaddling clothes lying in a manger. And we just read over that. We'll get to it in a little while. Once you get the background information, this pops out. It's really awesome. And suddenly, there was with the angel a multitude of heavenly hosts, praising God and saying, glory to God in the highest, on earth, peace, goodwill toward men. So it was, when the angels had gone away from them into heaven, that the shepherds said to one another, let us now go to Bethlehem and see this thing that has come to pass, which the Lord has made known to us. And they came with haste. I love that, because you get this idea that they were just falling over themselves.
Right.
And here's another one of these biblical texts.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to text, right,
yes.
with your phone. And it's like these guys are texting, and they say, let's see here. Let us now go. We must go to Bethlehem and see this thing, exactly. Right? This is not how it is. These guys are falling over there as fast as they can to get down to where the angel just told him exactly where he was.
It's a bit understated.
It's way it's there, but you just can't feel it because the emotion is not there.
Yeah.
You have to look very carefully to this kind of stuff. That's how come this is easy to read over, and we've done it hundreds of times, right? You just read over it, and especially if you're familiar with it. And sometimes you can miss really cool details.
Yeah.
Okay, so they came with haste, and they found Mary and Joseph and the babe lying in a manger. Now when they had seen him, they made widely known the saying which was told them concerning this child. And all those who heard it marveled at those things which were told them by the shepherds. But Mary kept all these things and pondered them in her heart. Then the shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all the things they had heard and seen as it was told them. So that's the story of the shepherds. And so it's easy to just whoosh over.
Yeah.
Now we're going to go over and get some really cool background information that will make this pop right off the page.
Cool.
Now, at the Passover, it was required for the people to take in a 1-year-old lamb that without spot or blemish. And I think there we go. Yeah, we got a lamb right there. Now there is a lamb that would not qualify, right?
Yeah.
Because it has spots, right? Yeah. Now we got another picture, and we'll show you there's one of the good ones. You need a lamb without spot or blemish.
Isn't that cute?
Yeah, it sure is. And so you had these specially consecrated shepherds whose job it was to herd the sheep, shepherd the sheep, take care of the sheep, and when the time came to take them and make sure that they have births, and then they inspect the sheep, and they pull out of there the ones that do not have a spot or blemish. In fact, just outside of Bethlehem, there was a place called the Migdal Eder. Migdal Eder. Now, this is a Hebrew word that means tower of the flock. This is a very important detail. We get a lot of this information from something called the Mishnah, which is a Jewish rabbinical traditions, right? And according to some of these traditions, this Migdal Eder was a huge complex. Now, what it was originally it was a military fortress. It was a tower there and kind of a military base sort of thing. And it was long abandoned. And they'd taken it over, and they used it for the temple sheep. And so they had it went out for miles, the fields where they did the shepherding, and they could graze and so on out there.
Right.
And when it was time for a birth, this is why they're watching over them at night too. When it was time for a birth, they would bring them down into the Migdal Eder so that they could be born in one of the stalls there. And so this was a huge complex, and it could have been hundreds of sheep. There could have been thousands of sheep, or even hundreds of thousands of sheep. Now remember, Jerusalem at the time was nearly 1 million people.
Yeah.
They're going to need a lot of sheep. A lot of sheep without spot or blemish.
For sacrifice.
That's right.
All the time.
Exactly right. So these guys, when the sheep were ready, they'd take them down to the Migdal Eder, and so they could have the births in the safe stalls and everything, and then they could expect them to see the ones that were spotless and without blemish. And when they would get sheep that were spotless, without spot or blemish, they would wrap it in a special wrapping, because you would know that these are the sheep that are to be set aside, because these are going to be the ones that qualify for the temple sacrifice.
So it'd kind of keep them protected.
Right, keep them protected. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Now, there's a prophecy in Micah, and this is a really cool one too.
Okay.
This is Micah 4. And it says, "And you, O tower of the flock." Now remember, O tower of the flock, Migdal Eder.
Yeah.
"Now you, O tower of the flock, the stronghold of the daughters of Zion, to you it shall come, even the former dominion shall come, the kingdom of the daughter of Jerusalem." Now there are many people that believe that this is a prophecy, and I'm one of them, that says that the Messiah is going to come through the Migdal Eder.
Yeah.
We had a prophecy that the Messiah was going to be born in Bethlehem, and prophecy that he's going to come through the Migdal Eder.
Interesting.
Now,
wow.
the Migdal Eder, yeah, it is, sure, it's fascinating. Yeah. Now, the Migdal Eder, in some references, was only a few hundred feet down the road from Bethlehem, basically the same place. Some say it was a little further, but it was real close there to real close to Bethlehem. Now, the shepherds would have known that you had all these people coming into town for the census. They would have known the whole city was overflowing.
Right.
They may have known that some of the overflowing people were being housed at the Migdal Eder. They may have even known that there was a pregnant woman staying at the Migdal Eder. They probably knew about this prophecy, being that it had to do with the Migdal Eder. So this is a lot of information.
It is. Yeah.
Right? Now we're going to take this information and we're going to read the passage again.
Okay.
And it's going to jump out and grab you. "Now, there were shepherds living out in the fields, keeping watch over their flock by night. And behold, an angel of the Lord stood before them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were greatly afraid. Then the angel said to them, 'Do not be afraid, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which will be to all people. For there is born to you this day in the city of David a Savior, who is the Christ Lord. And this will be the sign to you. You will find a babe wrapped in swaddling clothes.'" I believe wrapped in, when the shepherds heard this, they didn't hear that a baby was wrapped in a baby's blanket. They heard a baby is wrapped in the special wrappings that are reserved for the sheep that are without spot or blemish that are headed to the temple. They heard he's wrapped in the special wrappings.
Yeah.
And lying in a manger. Now, we always think of manger as, like I say, a little trough or a little crib. But manger can also be translated stall. That's absolutely the translation. You know, it means manger, it means stall. Stall. So, when the shepherds hear this, the first information they get isn't stall. The first information they get is the babe, Messiah, will be wrapped in the special wrappings reserved for those to be sacrificed at the temple. Exactly like it's going to happen to Christ. And the second thing he told him, and where is he? He's in the stall. What stall? Well, a stall, the only stall where you would be wrapped in the special wrapping. Right down here at the Migdal Eder.
Yeah.
So when the shepherds hear this, they know exactly where he is. The Messiah is down at the Migdal Eder.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heaven and the host praising God and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men. So it was, when the angels had gone away from them, the shepherds said to one another, Let us now go to Bethlehem and see this thing that has come to pass, which the Lord has made known to us. And they came with haste. Right? So they're out in the field. They could be a half mile out there, a mile, 2 mile, whatever. And they say, Let's go. Right? They make haste. And they're down there because they got to get to the Migdal Eder, because they say that the angel just told us Christ is in the Migdal Eder, wrapped in the special wrapping.
Right.
That's what he's talking about right here. And here's a verse. I love this. This really brings it home because everybody reads over this. And it says, And they came with haste and found Mary and Joseph and the babe lying in a manger. Everybody misses that. Did you catch it? It says, and let's see here. I've lost my place. Totally lost my place. It's got to. It was on this paper a minute ago. Okay. Unknown to us came. Okay. And they found Mary and Joseph and the babe lying in a manger. It doesn't say they found the babe lying in a manger. They found Mary and Joseph and the babe lying in a manger. They were all in the stall. Mm-hmm. Remember, it was night when the angels appeared to the shepherds out in the field. It was night. And they rushed down to the stalls at the Migdal Eder, and they found the baby there in the special wrappings, and they found Joseph, Mary, and the baby in the stall.
Yeah.
That's what the angels just communicated to these guys.
Yeah.
So what you have is, you have the Christ, the Messiah, being born in the place where the sacrificial sheep are born. At the place where the sacrificial sheep are born. In the stalls where the sacrificial sheep are born. And wrapped in the special wrappings reserved for the sheep that are to be sacrificed at the temple.
Right.
Wow!
Yeah, that's really cool.
And there's one more thing. Who were the first people to inspect the Messiah? The shepherds.
Right.
What was the shepherds' job? To inspect all the sheep to see which ones were without spot and blemish and ready for sacrifice at the temple.
Yep, that was
right?
their specific job.
Wow!
Yeah.
Then
That's pretty awesome.
That is unbelievable.
Yes, it is.
Now when it says, now when they had seen him, they made widely known the saying which was told them concerning this child. And all those who heard it marveled at those things which were told them by the shepherds. Well, yeah, because the shepherds had a huge story to tell, right? It isn't just that we saw a baby in a blanket somewhere in Jerusalem. It says here that they made haste and went down there. It doesn't say, so the shepherds all got together and they went out in a grid pattern across Bethlehem to try to find. Yeah. No, they went with haste right down there to the Migdal Eder.
Exactly where he was.
They knew exactly where he was.
That's right.
That's right. And so that's an awesome thing. Let's see here. Done with that page.
All right.
So now we're going to go from that. Oh, I know what I was going to say. There are some other views here which we have to talk about because in this stuff we do here, we don't just tell you what to believe. We don't see what we believe and then tell everybody this is why this is true. Yeah. We like to give all the views.
Right.
So there's also the view that Christ was born behind the inn, in a stable behind the inn, because there was no room for them in an inn in Bethlehem, and so they went behind the inn where they keep the animals, and he was born back there. That was one of the views. Another view is that he was born in one of the caves in Bethlehem. There are a lot of limestone caves in Bethlehem. They're still there today, and they used to keep animals in them. It's kind of a corral, and so a lot of people think that he was born in a cave. And then also we have this view here, which I just gave you, which is what I particularly believe, and spiritually it's profound.
Oh, it is,
and unbelievable. But any of those could be true, and it's perfectly cool with me. It doesn't change anything if it is.
Yeah.
So I'm good with any of those views. I just wanted to point this out because this stuff is out there. So
Well, the sacrificial lamb thing is huge.
Yeah.
The unblemished lambs, the place where it was at. I mean,
Yep.
that all fits and ties in.
Right.
I mean, that is a huge thing spiritually.
And of course, we already know he died at the time when the lambs were being sacrificed.
That's just
in
that,
the place where they were being sacrificed. You know, we already know that.
Uh-huh.
But also, it looks as though the birth was the
Yeah.
same way.
Very
Isn't that
significant.
fascinating?
I think it's very significant.
I do too. So now we're going to talk about the wise men.
Yeah.
The wise man is in Matthew. Now in Luke we have with the shepherds. The whole deal is in Luke. In Matthew we have the wise men, and so there's people that say that this is a contradiction, a biblical contradiction, and therefore the Bible is not true because you have two different stories of the birth of Christ, and they don't agree. That's what people say. That is not the case, and that's because they don't understand the scriptures or how they work.
Right.
The Bible is not a book like we understand books, right? It's living. And so it's not in chronological order. It doesn't flow like books. It kind of looks like a book. But other than that, it's not really a book. In fact, excuse me.
Right. Well, this is the wise man story about them is very unique. It is not quite what we think, is
No,
it?
this is really cool also.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the wise men are not the same time, excuse me, or the same place as the birth. This is a different time and a different place even. And so there's a lot of confusion on this. So let's read the passage. Matthew 2. Now after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of Herod the king, behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and have come to worship him. Then Herod the king heard this. He was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. Now we know there could be, we think that they're like three guys snuck in camels.
Right.
Right? That's what the picture
Three
we get.
dudes.
Yeah, they snuck in the back there. But it says that Herod and all Jerusalem were troubled at their appearing, right? So you may have a band of hundreds or even thousands large of these wise men that came in. This was a big bunch of dudes, right?
Yeah, that's
This
a lot.
No.
Three guys aren't going to really make a scene.
No,
They're
that's
going
right.
to trouble all of Jerusalem.
That's right. Now, these guys are a big mystery.
Mm-hmm.
They come out of nowhere. They do their business. They disappear back out of nowhere. And so they obviously have special knowledge right directly from God that nobody else has. Because first you get Mary. And they say, she gets the word, you are going to have the Messiah. And it's like, oh! Then Joseph gets word, Mary, the Messiah is coming, and it's going to come out. Whoa! Joseph can't believe it. Then the shepherds are told, the Messiah is down there at the Migdal Lider. And all the shepherds are, oh! Right?
Right.
But the wise man, these are some cool dudes. There's no goofiness for the wise men. They come in, where is he, the King of the Jews? For we've seen his star. Where's he at? Right? It's totally different. It's not a surprise at all. Mm-hmm. They've been waiting this for a long time. And now they just come in and say, where is he that was born King of the Jews?
Yeah.
Right?
They've obviously known about it.
Yeah, that's right. They've known about it. These are some cool dudes. And they have prior knowledge. And we're going to try to figure out where that came from. We got some ideas here. Now, the word for wise men is magi. And this is where we get our word magic from. But Herodotus of the 5th century said that these magi were famous for being able to interpret dreams. That's a huge clue. Mm-hmm. Because they're called magi and they can interpret dreams. Now, you remember Daniel in Daniel 2.
Right.
Nebuchadnezzar promoted Daniel to the chief administrator over all the wise men of Babylon. Remember? And then Daniel petitioned to have Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to join him. And Nebuchadnezzar said that was okay. So they all were in there together. Now, there is a rabbinical tradition that these magi continued on from that time all the way up until the time of Christ. This group that descended down from Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And there's the Kurds that are in northern Iraq. Now, these Kurds are Christians, And these are the guys that were gassed some number of years ago by Saddam Hussein and by Chemical Ali, they called the guy. These guys are all executed now. But at the time, they were gassing and killing their own people. Well, the guys that were gassing and killing were these Kurds because they were Christians, and Iraq is not a Christian country. Mm-hmm. And so there is a Kurdish tradition that they are the descendants of these wise men. That's actually a real Kurdish tradition. They actually believe that they were, and they may well be true, because this is just north of the area where Babylon was in the time of Daniel. So
I'm sorry. That was Daniel got placed in that position for interpreting the dream.
Yeah, that's exactly right. A dream interpreter. Yeah, that's right. Famous for that. Mm-hmm. So if that is the area that they came from, we can deduce that their trip was somewhere around a 400-mile trip. It would have taken 1 to 3 months if they didn't stop over at the hot springs somewhere along the way.
Right.
Well, yeah. Anyway,
it's possible.
Yeah. So, it's also interesting to note that they follow the stars south and west. They actually saw the star from the east. They didn't follow the star east, but they saw it in the east, and then they followed it south and west. So now we're going to go to this three-king fallacy. This is a big thing, and something that's on all of our Christmas cards. It's in all the movies, in all the Christmas specials. It's in everything. And the idea is that there were three kings. Here's one now. Yeah, this Christmas card here looking thing.
There's a fallacy now.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. So you have the three kings coming in on the camels, right?
Yeah.
And you see they got their gifts, holding them in their hands there. And there's the baby Jesus over there in kind of a Spanish-looking grotto-looking thing.
Right.
Anyway, the baby and Mary's there and Joseph.
Yeah.
And the kings are coming in.
Right.
That's the idea. And this is a goofy tradition that has been passed on for centuries.
Even the stars in there.
Yeah, the stars in there even that they're following. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is a goofy tradition that's been passed down for centuries. And I guess it just comes from people just automatically thinking that there were three. They must have been kings that were bringing the gifts. But actually, what you had there were three gifts, not kings.
Yeah.
The Magi came. The Magi weren't kings. The Magi were just Magi.
I wonder how that ever got changed and just kind of condensed down.
And that's
to
just
three kings,
three
gifts.
Kings, right?
Yeah, I wonder why that is. Even the song.
Yep.
The three kings.
That's right. Yeah, it's everywhere. Mm-hmm. Well, so you had three gifts. Now the only king mentioned there is King Herod. Now Herod, there's a likeness of him there.
There's Herod right there.
Yeah, King Herod. He's the only king, but there's a tradition that not only were these traditions go way back, hundreds and hundreds of years, that the three kings were from Europe, Asia, and Africa. And that's like usually in your nativity scenes, you'll have one that looks kind of Asian looking, and you'll have one that looks kind of white looking, and you'll have a black looking one, and that's the tradition.
Interesting. And
they even have their bones of this place. I like to call this place kind of a roadside attraction, a roadside stop. They actually have in there bones of the guys that they say are the three kings are in there, and it's in Cologne, Germany. Now, if you'll bring up the picture of the little roadside attraction, you'll get the idea that I'm saying. They say, well, these bones have been in here for all the way since about 400 or so. There it is.
Sorry, a little late.
It's okay. It's a roadside attraction, I call it. I'm just goofing around, obviously.
Yeah.
This is spectacular, unbelievably, one of the most beautiful buildings in the world, right?
Yeah.
This is the Cologne Cathedral in Cologne, Germany. And in 1850s, it was the tallest building in the world. So this is pretty big
deal,
spectacular thing. Anyway, they got some little deal inside there with gold covering on everything.
That's what they say.
Yeah,
huh?
that has the bones of the three kings, but there actually were not three kings.
No, I wonder where
So that is not even true.
Came
but
from.
But they get 1 million visitors a year, also coming in to see the bones.
That is
not even true.
That's a lie. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
That's unbelievable.